on Figueroa, the only podcast breaking down everything happening with the Lakers, Clippers, and Sparks. I'm your host, Edwin Garcia. Joining me today, per usual, is my co-host, Dar E.N. Viziri, a.k.a. Dime Dropper. Dime, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well, Edwin. Enjoying the Sparks, win or lose, always learning something new about the team and enjoying the ride, as I said I would all season. So having more fun than in the NBA season, I can't lie to you. More free time as well. And I know that's probably not the case for you, right?
Yeah, no, not well. It's different. That's the thing. I thought, and we can get into that probably off camera. But I thought like once I went through the NBA season, I'd be like, okay, I know how it works. And now I'm realizing, well, I've never gone through an off season. And as you know, I don't know if you heard, but the Lakers off season, it's not quiet. You know what I mean? There's some things going on and not going on.
Is it ever quiet?
The word in the street is sometimes it's dead, but this is not one of those years. We have Bronny, we got who's the coach, this guy's the coach, this was number one. I've never wanted him to begin with, and it's been a zoo. So that stuff's kind of kept me busy. But it is a little slower than the NBA season. I think nothing compares to that. It's like 3-4 games a week, and that's just one team, let alone the two teams we cover and all that other stuff. So it's a little slower than that, but it's not like it doesn't feel like a off season quite for me because I'm the things that I do. But overall, it scaled back a little bit, and that's nice. So one thing that wasn't nice is the game we're talking about here. At least that's how I felt. You're a little bit more positive here, which is interesting. So I think sometimes I'm like more of the positive person in the NBA season, and you're the negative one. We've kind of flipped here. But 95-79, Storm beat the Sparks in their final Commissioner Cup game. They officially end the Commissioner's Cup 2-3. They weren't able to climb up. They really couldn't mathematically get the number one spot. The best case scenario was if they would have won and the Lynx would have lost, they could have maybe gotten close with Phoenix for the number one spot if things play out that way. But even so, Phoenix the tiebreaker. So they were kind of dead in the water before this game started anyways. But now they ended 2-3, so they're not going to be in any kind of a Commissioner Cup competition. It's between I have to check the tiebreakers between Minnesota and Seattle. And New York's coming out of the East because they waxed the East. They won every game. So there's no problem for them there. They don't have to worry about point differential or tiebreakers. They're in it. So now that we know they're done, now that we saw those games, let's talk about what happened here on this one. Spark Storm. I'll give my quick takes, and then I want to throw it back to you, Dimes, because I think you have some good insights here. I felt like, again, the offense didn't quite struggle like other games where we've seen some like 12-point quarters and 8-point quarters and like 11-0 runs. It didn't struggle like that, but I felt like there was a couple players overperforming, but a lot of underperformances, right? Hamby was her normal self, 16-11, walking double-double. That's been fine. Brink kind of disappointed me. That was one that I wasn't, too excited about. And then we had a bench that kind of stepped up with, Lee had definitely her best game, period. 18 points. I think she was 6 for 9 from the field. She's getting to the line now. She's starting to get bored. She's starting to get it. Like I mentioned before, she was a player. Don't judge too much. She's literally a foreign player coming from China during the summer. She still has a translator. Like she's going to need a little bit of grace because she's not just a regular like first year player. There's some other factors. Once she gets comfortable, like let's see what happens. We're starting to see some of the good versions of that tonight. And then we had Ari had another great game. 15 points. She's had a couple, mixed bag, but I think she's starting to establish herself as a good backup point guard. But at the end of the day, they still kind of, I think, struggled offensively, in my opinion. And the Storm just, kind of showed their class. You had NECA killing it. You had Jewel Lloyd doing what she does. They just have that trio of NECA, Jewel, and Skylar Diggins-Smith is just really working out well in year one. And I think that's just a little too much firepower for them. But what did you see in this game?
Well, I knew going into this game that Seattle was going to try to take advantage of us on the interior because at times I've always said since the beginning of the season, feels like sometimes we can get bullied on the inside. Lee Arua to start the season outside of those wings games just looked a little slow at times. And then Cam has had trouble staying out of foul trouble in the beginning of the season. So teams are going to go at us, and it forces Dearica Hamby to have to do so much on the glass, on the interior, and then constantly setting screens offensively, basically playing the 4 and the 5 all game long and play so many minutes. So I knew that NECA and Ezi Magmagor was going to go right at us. And man, I mean, we got crushed on the glass 45-33. And if you look at the bench, it's weird with the Sparks bench because there are some games where in the beginning of the season they were offering no production, and you and I were talking about on these episodes that we need more from Ari McDonald, we need more from Lee, and then when Rakia was starting, it's like, and Leisha was injured, it was like who was coming off the bench and giving us anything.
Right.
And there's been other games like the win against the Fever, like even the game against the Wings, where you're getting contributions from the bench, and sometimes they're outplaying the starters. You have those great Ari McDonald games. You have Ray Burrell, like for example, coming in against the Aces and doing that in the fourth quarter. So Coach Miller has shown that he's willing to end the game with just about anyone based on how the game is going. But I mean, one thing I have to say that disappoints me in this game is Cam Brink. Yeah, she was 2 for 7 in the game, but she only played 19 minutes and only had 2 fouls. Like, I get Leah Rue is having such a good game, but we've seen more of a willingness for Coach Miller to play Cam and Leah Rue at the same time because Cam can space the floor. I think one thing I'm learning just by watching the WNBA consistently this season is that the spacing is just so night and day from the NBA, just based on the shortened 3-point line. Like, it's so much easier to help, and cut off driving lanes. Like, you really need exceptional scorers and shot creators in the W. And I just think that's one thing that the Sparks kind of lack. And it does somewhat frustrate me you do say I am positive. I am being positive because I am enjoying the potential of Cam Brink and Rakia Jackson. But there are games that go by, and this was kind of one of them where, okay, they're struggling, but we want to see them continue to get reps. And, sometimes it just feels as though they're an afterthought. I mean, I don't want to say that about Cam, but Rakia in the sense that, for example, she starts now, right? But every single first quarter, first 4 minutes go by, she doesn't really get more than maybe one play drawn up for her, a touch where she's looking to score. She's just kind of sitting in the corner and just going with the flow for the entire first quarter, and then she comes out of the game. So, like, by the time the second quarter is started, she comes back in the game, she's really not done anything or looked to be aggressive at all. And her utility kind of comes from being aggressive with the ball in her hands, right? So,
right.
I mean, so that's one thing I have to say. Like, I know she was struggling tonight, and then defensively, she was having trouble staying in front of the ball, and she has been lately. I've been noticing that. But, like, I mean, are we really going hard to make the playoffs this season? Like, I get there's so much left and stuff like that, but I just want to see Brink and Rakia Jackson get more reps offensively. That's just me, but I want to hear what you have to say about it.
So it's a balance, as you can imagine. Miller is never going to be a coach. He'll never say it publicly, and he would never think it, where he's like, oh, no, it doesn't. The results don't matter. He's aware as well, just like we are. Hey, he's said it before. It's a rebuild year. It's a build year. I think last press conference at home, he said, or I think two home games ago, like the Friday game, I believe against the Wings, he said, I feel like it's our first year, because last year it was like a changing of the guard, but they weren't the youth that we have now. It was like these are old players that aren't going to be around. So it's like a tough thing. He was just trying to win, and they didn't win enough, and blah blah blah. The team had a massive exodus of a lot of the key players, and we have the team we have now. But now he feels like it's year one. It's like, oh, I got the rookies that I think I can build around Brink and Rakia. But Miller, as you know, as many coaches are, is a competitor, and he's trying to win. And he definitely, the thing is, Miller's cool with you getting more run. He accepts the fact that it's just the facts. They're not as stacked as the Liberty and the Sun and the Aces even, and the Lynx. Like, they're just not good enough. He accepts that. He understands that. They're working hard. They're still trying to win. And, maybe development matters more. But what he doesn't stand is mental errors and mistakes. And when that stuff starts happening, that's when he gets irritated. He has like a order of his subs, and if you kind of take a look at it, you'll see, okay, this player comes out at the 2-minute mark, all that kind of stuff, just like any other coach. But especially with Rakia, I've noticed, just like you did, that Friday game, she had a bad shot she took, and then she had a careless turnover, and then Miller pulled her. And he pulled her before he normally does. And I was like, he's pissed off. Like that's what that tells me. He was like, because I saw it, and I forgot who was sitting next to. Someone was like, that was a bad turnover from Jackson, right? And I was like, yeah. And then we saw Miller point her out. I'm like, oh, see, he saw it too. And he's like, enough. So he still has that, like, yes, we're going to develop, and development maybe a little bit over the wins, losses. But if you're doing stuff, and that's also teaching them a lesson, right? You're not going to do that and stay on the floor, Like, I need you to, unforced turnovers, that kind of thing, not being where you need to be. That's the stuff. So with Brink, I kind of get it tonight because you had someone going so hot. The devil's argument of the other side would be, I don't think Brink's going to give you 18 and 7. So I went with the person who was going to give me that, right? The hot hand.
Well, let me ask a question. Have we done, I don't know off the top of my head, have we done a lineup with Cam Brink, De'Erica Hamby, and Leah Rue all on the floor together? Like a really big
I'm almost
lineup?
positive we have not done that. I'm going to try to see if I can pull up the stats here because I do have like a bookmark of like Spark stats, and I'll see if I can pull up the lineup. I don't think so. That feels like an incredibly big lineup.
Yeah, Hamby, the thing is, Hamby, I mean, it felt like she hit the three pretty well tonight. Let me look at 2 for 4.
She's gotten a lot more comfortable with that. Yeah,
she's hitting the three well, but she doesn't often stand behind the 3-point line. You know, she's usually the one setting the screens and rolling or going for the offensive rebound. You know, she's around the basket, inside the arc most of the time. So I think just her instinct is to be, you know, around the basket or cutting and stuff like that. But it would be interesting to give it a shot. Cam and Hamby would have to space a little bit, but it would be really big. So I guess that's the argument against Cam playing more minutes tonight, because Lee was having such a great game. I did not know she had that step through in her bag like that. That little slow step through, that 1-2 around the basket.
Yeah. She's got a little more. Yeah, that step through is really good. She's had a few like kind of borderline acrobatic like moves around the rim and kind of scoring, and showed kind of a little bit more agility than she showed early on. Early on, it felt like, you know, the first couple games felt like she just got punked easily. But I figured that's just she's not used to the physicality, having trouble communicating, you know, and just kind of like overwhelmed out there, like, you know, like I'm really out here, like this is a lot. But, you know, we're starting to see some positives. I'm optimistic. I'm gonna kind of hold off my like overall critiques of Lee until I see kind of a full season and be like, okay, this is what she can do. This is what she can't do. For now, I think it's best if you kind of like keep it open mind and just let's take it, you know, week by week and see if we see some positives. And again, Miller said that he thinks she has starter potential, which is a lot, you know. So I think you're starting to see some of that now, but I'm sure you'll also see some games where it's not going to be that good. So, you know, it's going to be a step-by-step process there. All right. So why don't we go ahead and go ahead?
No, I was going to say to everybody who's tuning in for the first time, a lot of people on Twitter that are tuning in from either Edwin's Twitter or my Twitter. This is Basketball on Figueroa. It's the only, as far as we know, the only podcast that talks about Clippers, Lakers, and Sparks. Yeah. Pro basketball, all 3 pro basketball teams in LA. We've done it since before the NBA season started. So we did a whole season, and now we're doing the Sparks. And this is when Edwin and I are actually on the same side. So it's fun. You guys want to support the channel, you can also find the episodes on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and on our YouTube channel, on my YouTube channel, Dime Dropper YouTube. You guys can comment in the chat. You can start a dialogue in there. Send a super chat if you want to support the show. So I encourage people. I posted the link on my Twitter page to come to YouTube, and you can start asking questions, and, you know, you can start talking to other Sparks fans. So start some dialogue. Go Sparks. But as far as this game, Edwin, I want to say one thing as well. Clearly the offense is a bigger struggle for us so far to start this season. And I think a lot of it is if Lexi Brown is having a good offensive game, it just like makes a world of a difference. Like she's kind of the X factor for this team. And tonight she got chance after chance. They're running so many sets for her to move off the ball. And I mean, she just either didn't get clean looks off. And then the ones she did, she just didn't hit. And she was 2 for 9 in the game, 2 for 7 from 3. Ray Burrell also, you know, she got a good amount of minutes because of her length on the perimeter. Because, I mean, as Skylar Diggins, Smith, and the Gold Mamba, they're tough to stop, man. They're really tough to stop. So you want Ray Burrell's size out there on the perimeter guarding, but she just didn't have the same shooting game that she had against the Aces. She even had a Paul George side of the backboard, unfortunately, at one point. That was unfortunate.
I haven't heard that name in a little bit. Yeah.
That was unfortunate. So it was just rough. And then Rakia just had a rough shooting game. 16 minutes, though. Like, damn. Like, she didn't really even get to work through it in the after she kind of started getting stuff going in the second half to start it. But 1 for 8. Sparks shot 39% from the field in the game, 30 from 3. Last question before we move on, though. We got to address it. We haven't. Dude, first game against NECA, man. It was pretty painful. She was the player of the game for sure, dominating us on the interior.
Yeah, I mean, Nneka's incredible. I still wish she could have stayed. Obviously, it was her decision. She was a free agent. I know we talked privately. You're like, hey, why? And I'm like, I don't think it was up to them. It was, she was a free agent, and she said, hey, maybe didn't want to be part of a rebuild and want to say, hey, I'm gonna, try to go for a ring. And she's definitely on a team that she can do that, and she can be one of the pillars of it. So I get it, but yeah, it's one of those unfortunate things. Not everyone can be in the same organization their whole career. She made it 12 seasons. I don't know how many more she's got left. Parker had the same thing, right? She spent almost all of her career with the Sparks. She spent 2 in Chicago at the end and 2 in Vegas at the end. So it kind of happens sometimes. I wish she would have stayed, but yeah, all the flowers to Nneka. She's gonna have her jersey hanging at Crypto. I'm sure. Maybe a statue. We'll see. She's got a couple rings too, so I think she has a case, especially for the history she has on the women's side for it.
If Lisa doesn't have a statue, then I don't think anyone else is getting a statue for the Sparks.
I think those are overdue. We'll see what happens. Maybe they can do like a little section where it's like the Sparks players.
This isn't how much room do they have in Star Plaza? I told you we still have Drew Doughty and Anze Kopitar. I mean, this isn't a museum over here.
It's a cathedral. It's a sports cathedral. Like we're gonna make it work. We're gonna have 5 Kobe statues and 2 LeBrons, and
there's no room for people to walk, I guess.
There isn't room anyway. They're all lining up. You see the lines for the Kobe one? It's like it's ridiculous still. Yeah, it's incredible. All right, so let's go ahead. We're gonna rewind now, kind of go back to earlier in the week. Why don't we start with the Lynx game? Sparks Lynx. That was a tough one. I feel like, the Lynx they're legitimately one of the best teams in the W right now, and they definitely showed it in this game. 86-62, another one where the Sparks struggled offensively the whole time. 12 points in the first quarter, 14 in the second. I think this is one of the games they started it was like an 11-0 run to start. Yes, it was 11-0 run. They didn't score for the first 3-4 minutes of the game, the Sparks. So they really struggled. This is one where definitely, I wouldn't even say you ignore it, because it's important to see the struggles the team has, especially offensively, but only Hamby was in double digits. Nobody else was in double digits. So you got rough games from everybody. Yeah, this was just kind of a stinker here. It was a frustrating game. And again, Fee's just so good. We talked about her right before on the pod about how good she is and the kind of problems she was going to cause. And yeah, she had 25 points, 10 for 15 from the field, 9 rebounds. The whole starting lineup kind of ate. What were your thoughts generally for the Lynx Sparks matchup?
Well, just a much better basketball team playing us, to keep it very simple. Nafisa Collier, one of the best players in the league right now, getting basically what she wanted on the inside.
Yeah.
But she, the fact that she can, play inside, outside, she's got a jump shot. She's just got it all. 25 points, 9 rebounds for her on 10 for 15 shooting. And this team can really shoot it, man. That Bridget Carlton, 4 for 4 from 3.
Yeah.
I noticed a lot of these teams around the W, I don't have the 3-point percentage in front of me, but they shoot the ball better than we do. They just have
for sure.
We just don't have great shooting. Kia Nurse, she's been in a little bit of a slump lately. She was 2 for 10 in this game. And then Laisha Clarendon, 2 for 8. Rakia, 1 for 5. Cam, 1 for 5. Ari, 1 for 10. Just, oh my goodness. This Stephanie Talbot, 1 for 7. And they just locked us up. It was just a Dearica Hamby double-double, another night at the office for her. But nothing. We just got clamped. What else is there to say? And we, what's funny is we won the rebounding battle, which is wild. I don't know how that's even possible.
Well, I was telling somebody that because someone mentioned it. I believe I was in person for this one. They're like, we won the rebounding battle. I'm like, well, when you miss a lot, you have plenty of rebounding opportunities. So I think they were just grabbing a lot of offensive rebounds and just clunking away until eventually, you get 2 or 3 boards that way. And then eventually the other team gets one. And
you think or you saw the box score? Because I just looked at the box score and I was like, okay, Edwin. You either have that's a very astute observation, or you've seen the box score before.
I have the box score on me, but I did not look to see if that was right. Yeah,
that's impressive because 17 offensive rebounds for us, Sparks, to 5 for Minnesota. So you were right.
Yeah,
who was 2 for Dearica Hamby, 3 for Cam, 5 for Leah Rue.
Again, Lee stepping up.
That wasn't a great game for anybody, though, was it? Except for Dearica.
No, besides Hamby, it wasn't even a great game for him. It was just like a fine game. Like, oh yeah, that's what you do. great.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, and I think I tweeted it out. I mean, I'm not sure when I tweeted it out, but I think it was during this game. I'm like, once you put that purple and gold, baby, the 3-point percentage, it doesn't like. I swear, Larry Bird would be a rotation player on if he was a Laker because the three would go away. It would just go away. I don't know why. They've said it's because the lights are dark or like I don't know. There's something about when you put that jersey on. I'm sure this year the Lakers will sign a 45% 3-point shooter, and when the minute they put it on, watch 2 for 10, 1 for 8, 0 for 6. It's weird.
That Minnesota team, though, man, they've got a lot of these like, girls with size that can shoot, like Carlton, and then Uhouse off the bench, Xander Lassini. Like these girls are like shooting threes and are like fairly mobile for their size, and they're like all like 6'2" or above, right? Like, let's see, 6'2" for Xander Lassini, and then Dorka Uhouse 6'5", like damn, like. Yeah. Then Collier can really move as well. It's like they're tough, and then they have good guard play with Courtney Williams and Kayla McBride.
Yeah,
that's a tough team.
Williams.
That's a tough team. Yeah, Courtney Williams, the mid range, when they go under the screen. It reminds me of kind of like how when teams used to go under the screens with Tony Parker, even though he's a very good mid range shooter. I don't know why they'd still do it sometimes. It was just a big mistake.
Yeah,
random, but yeah.
No, yeah. I get what you're talking about. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to a positive game. This was the Sparks versus the Wings, 181-72. This was really good. It got them out of that slump, and especially after that blowout loss, it started feeling like I started thinking like, man, like, is this team going to be able to beat teams that are like slightly ahead of it? The wins they've gotten haven't been like against quality teams, and the Wings, granted they're also losing and going right now they're on a 5-game losing streak, but at the time it was like a 2 or 3 game losing streak, and then we added to that. So this was the game you were at, right? You vlogged it, so why don't we start there? What was, without spoiling your vlog, what was the experience like you've been at crypto for Kings games, you've been at crypto for Laker games, you were there for a billion Clipper games, but not for a Sparks game. What was it like seeing the environment and the energy in that building for the Sparks?
It was awesome, but yeah, so you mentioned the vlog. Guys, check that out on my channel, Dime Dropper channel. My first Sparks game and everything that was going on with the Staples Center renovations, talking to some fans and friends after the game, and the experience overall. So the first thing I looked at was that certain restaurants, like not every single kiosk or whatever concession stand is open during Sparks games. Only some. And then obviously no 300 section and no 200 section was being used, just the Premier and the 100 section. And there was some construction on some bathrooms and some of those new like suite sections they introduced last season. And then other than that, it was just, Laker floor colors, right? The purple and gold floor, which I always think looks very nice. Has always looked very nice at Staples Center. The lighting though is more similar to Clipper lighting. It's not the dark movie theater lighting of the Lakers. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, it's definitely brighter for sure. It doesn't look as dark to me as the Clippers, mainly because you guys also blacken everything. So I think it makes it really dark, right? While they still are using the Lakers colors, so it's like a medium. It's like a balance of it. But yeah, I definitely noticed that it's a different kind of light compared to, or it feels like it's different light compared to the Lakers one, and definitely the Clippers, which is always like very different.
Yeah, and then I mean, as far as the game, it was very fun. Obviously, the environment was very fun. Everybody was into the game, and there was just hoop fans. You know what I'm saying? Straight up people that were just really into the games. So that was fun. The people that were there were loud. Obviously, not nearly as many people as a Clipper Laker game as an NBA game,
right?
But the people that were there were making noise. So I thought it was super fun, family friendly, and shout out DJ Malski. He was doing a good job.
He always kills it, right? Like I'm like, man, he's so good. I wish he could do the Laker ones. I obviously don't think the Lakers want that. They want like a corporate kind of like just play the hits. But I'm like, he's hitting. He's got the bangers on there. He's trolling the team. He brings great energy. As I'm sure you probably also know, he does the UFC stuff, and he used to do the Rams, which was great a couple years back. And then he's not on that gig, I don't think anymore. But yeah, that was always awesome. I remember when the Rams beat the Niners. He started playing some E40 music while the fans were exiting because the Rams closed it out. So he was trolling them while they were leaving the playing some Bay Area music. So I'm like, oh man, this guy's awesome. So yeah, definitely, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And yeah, it's a good time. And it was a good time in that game too, because you got to see Enrique do her thing, but not beat the Sparks. And that's exactly what happened. It was 81-72. I'm pulling up Enrique's stat line here. Yeah, she had 22 points. Again, not as efficient offensively, but she's carrying the load with Sabli out. She's got that shoulder injury. She hasn't played all year, so she's been 22 points. She did have her running mate was right there with her with 21, Maddie. She was killing it too. Again, those kind of slasher players kind of give the Sparks some problems when you have a decent amount of size and you can shoot it. And Maddie's definitely one who kind of fits that build. But the Sparks were able to take care of business. I didn't even notice this. I'm looking at the stats now. They really clamped them down in the fourth quarter. The Wings had 9 points in the fourth. That's wild. Let me see what things were like. I know it was close going into the fourth, but I didn't realize it was that. Yeah, it was a 2-point game. So props to the defense. It's a 2-point game. Sparks were down by 2 points, and they forced them to single digits in the fourth quarter. So it definitely could have went the other way. They just clamped them. What was your takeaways, especially being in the building, watching the game and kind of the performances that stood out to you?
Well, I talked about it a little bit earlier. Whenever Lexi Brown has a good game for us offensively, it changes everything. I thought she did a really good job, finding her shot in pick and roll and also making plays in pick and roll in that game. She also had kind of the dagger late in the game. I think it made it 79-72 with that mid-range jumper coming off a screen. So I thought she was awesome coming off the bench. And she hit 4 out of our 5 threes. You know what I mean? She really shot well. 16 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists off the bench. So great Lexi game. That was at the time probably the second best game of the season for Liu Ru, because the first good game she had was against the Wings. This was also against the Wings, 7.3 boards. But
Wings.
Right. But you talk about the defense late on Enrique and Maddie Segrist, who has been having a great season for the Wings. I've watched a good amount of their games. She's been awesome. Laisha Clarendon and Lexi Brown, I thought, really clamped down on the perimeter. A lot of Laisha Clarendon guarding Enrique and chasing her around screens and some really good ball denial at times. And even Lexi Brown as well, moving her feet and doing a good job at the point of attack. And then some really solid rim protection from none other than Cam Brink. First double-double of her WNBA career.
Yeah.
And then Rakia Jackson closing a bit. I mean, that was just a very fun game. Great game to be at to kind of snap our losing skid. And, yeah, beating not a terrible team. Obviously an injured team. No Satu, no Natasha Howard. But got to get the job done, right? And we'll take any win we can get. And great stuff from the rookies. Cam Brink, ecstatic after the game. Loving the fans. We love her. Yeah. Good win for the Sparks.
Yeah, Jimmy Buckets was there in attendance. He was excited too, and I tweeted it out. I kind of wish I could record it, but also it's a little bit murky. And if I can record when I'm back there, but I went back, waiting to interview the players. So I kind of missed, for example, I missed the Jimmy Butler picture thing live because I was on the other side. I'm trying to get to where I need to go for the post game, right? So I missed that part. While some people who maybe dragged to get out of their seats, they saw it. So anyway, I missed it. But what I didn't miss, because I was in the back kind of waiting to get allowed into the press conference, I saw Brink when she left after all that, and she was excited and she ran out, and then she was in the tunnel. Once she got away from the fans and knew she was kind of almost in a private moment right before she hit the actual locker room, she just yelled out this scream like a big, I'm not even gonna try to imitate it. It was like a big roar. What kind of the sports yeah, and she roared it out, and I was like, oh, she's hyped about this win. And she just met Butler, who she likes. He's rocking her jersey. She got a double. She's doing the broadcast interview post game, getting high five, and then it's winning solves everything. It's finally we got to win. I got a double. I played well. Yes, this is what it's all about. So that was really cool seeing that moment. And then everyone was in a good mood. When they were walking by, Hamby was smiling. Everyone was just kind of all up. The energy was up. It's yeah, we just got a good win. And heck yeah, Friday night, let's get it. So it was good vibes. And luckily, since we already dealt with the Storm loss, we can just talk about what I think is the best win of the season. 96-92, defeating the champs, the Las Vegas Aces. I'll be honest, we talked about in the pod. I'm yo, we're not gonna beat this team. We're just, come on, it's the Aces, right? They got Asia Wilson, they got Kelsey Plum, Stokes even. They're just gonna get killed here. But they didn't get killed. They actually were the ones who took care of business. They won 96-92 again. A slow start in the beginning. When I saw that start, I was yep, it's what I expected, and they settled down. They made it decent by the end of the first quarter. They had a really good second quarter. They killed them in the third, and then they were able to close things out there. So I think after the Dallas game, this was definitely the win of the season. You had, talk about Rakia Jackson. Like it was work gold for me, because people don't know, but they know now because I tweeted it out. I've been working on a Rakia Jackson feature for like a week. So I've been like looking at the film, and I did a one-on-one with her, getting some quotes for my interview, and I was doing all that work. I wanted to get that article done, I think like Thursday or Friday, and just the timeline for me to talk to her just didn't work, so I had to push it back. Lucky me, I talked to her, and the next game she has like her best game, and then I released the article. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. It's like it worked my way. I'm like, all right, everyone's gonna be hyped about her. And then I'm like, oh, by the way, yeah, she's having a great year. Here's my report on her. And yeah, so that was props to her for doing that. 16 points, 7 for 11, and I think what really to me stood out was in the fourth when they needed her to kind of get those buckets. She got those buckets, and definitely that was one of her more impressive games. And like you said, I think this was a game that you tweeted out as well. Kurt Miller just pushed all the buttons. He put Ray in during a critical time when you're like, "Ooh, is that a good idea?" And he gambled and won there. Harry again, another.
Hadn't Ray Burrell not played the entire game at that point?
I believe so. Yeah, she only played like 5 minutes period. So I've been wanting more Ray Burrell minutes, and whenever I talk to other media members, they're like, "Yeah, but like where?" And I'm like, "I don't know. You gotta find it. Like she needs some more minutes." So I'm glad that's why it's such a big risk, right? You haven't given her as much run, and then you're gonna put her in this high pressure moment, and she stepped up big. So I'm gonna throw it to you. What were the kind of the big standouts that you want to like talk about here in this win?
Well, that was when you started to see that Coach Miller's like not afraid to. Doesn't feel like there's any set rotation. It's just he goes on how he's seeing the game out there in live time. And like, for example, he pulled every single starter when we were down 14-0 besides Hamby, every single starter. And I have to say though, like Ari McDonald, Lee Aru, Lexi, they gave us a boost. All of them, if you look at their plus minus, Talbot, Yaru, Lexi Brown, Ari McDonald, all positive, and Ray Burrell. So Ray, as you said, she came in later, but they came in and kind of restored a little bit of order for us. And then, I mean, the way we were able to stay with it, get stops. I mean, look, Asia Wilson still got off.
Yeah.
But I don't think we made it easy for her necessarily.
No, yeah, she had to work for it. I think there's some decent moments from Hamby. Brink's not afraid at all. She's always kind of like taking on the challenge. One thing I like about Brink is she gets up even more for those games. She's like, I'm guarding like the best. Like, let's go get it. So obviously she still had, I think, like 4 or 5 fouls. Let me see.
5 blocks though. Yeah,
exactly. And Miller talked about that. He's like, it's tough because I have to teach her when not to go for it, but I don't want to take away the edge. She has to balance it out. Again, people have mentioned like Brink has to stop fouling, and I agree, but I think it's just something we're going to have to deal with at least the first couple years because it's literally been an issue since college. So it's like it's never like I don't even think she wants us to ask the question. She's like, look, I know I do it. I've been doing it for like 4 or 5 years now, but also you got to kind of cut it out. And I will say to her credit, sometimes I feel like she does get an unfair whistle every now and then. I'm like, oh, that feels like it's a 50-50 ball, or there's like a hip check thing, or like there's like some contact on the top of the body. And I'm like, I feel like that's a tic-tac. So sometimes it's not her fault. She's a rookie. She's going to get an unfair whistle. As you know, in any sport, you're a rookie.
Horrible whistle. She gets a horrible whistle.
She does.
It's very frustrating.
Yeah. So that's something she's got to work on. But also she has a reputation. You have a reputation to foul, so they're going to look for that. Other teams are going to lean into that. They're going to be flipping and flopping, and it's part of it too. So she's going to have to balance it out. This game, again, told the line a little too much. I don't think she's actually – I think she might have one foul out. I think she might have fouled out in Long Beach. But other than that, she hasn't fouled out. But the reason she doesn't foul out is because when she gets in foul trouble, Miller sits her for like freaking 8 minutes. So it ends up – it hurts the team in other ways because the minutes have to go down. So in this game, not so much. She played 27 minutes. That's pretty high. But there's other times where she's had to miss significant moments because of that. So got to work that out. But, I mean, all in all, happy with that result. And I think the Sparks, you mentioned the playoffs and how, they're not going for it, right? And a week ago, I would have agreed with you 100%. But after a couple wins, I think they're only a game and a half out of 8. So it's way too early to really worry about that. There's still like 31 games left. So, we only played 11, 12. So, you don't, there's no need to look at the the standings at all yet. Look at them when we have like 15 games left. So not time yet. Maybe after the Olympic break, let's start looking at it. But if you do look at it now, you're like, they'd be within striking distance. This was the final week. You'd be like, hey, win your last 3-4 games, give yourself a chance. So I think, for me personally, I think the best case scenario, you get the 8th seed, and then you can at least get the experience just for, hey, play Connecticut, play Las Vegas in a playoff setting for a couple games, get a taste of that. And also, it's good to have playoff basketball just for experience, especially with how bad the really bad teams are. I mean, the Mystics are 1-12. Like, if you're thinking about the lottery stuff, I think at this point you've already won too much to even worry about that as much. But we'll see what happens. They still may very well miss the playoffs just because right now they would if it's over. But I think that's something, a conversation for us to have when we get to like the 15 game mark or so. So before we go into mid-season award or quarter season awards, do you have anything else you want to add about the Sparks Aces game?
Yeah, Rakia Jackson, she clearly likes working on that left wing, left block area. I've noticed that from the first couple of games of this season, that's her preferred spot. She likes to work. Some of those bank shots when she was turning and facing or hitting that turnaround were just beautiful, taking advantage of size. She clearly has the tools and the size to be a great scorer. I just think it's just going to keep coming with reps, consistently throwing her the ball, making her go to work, also getting her on the move a little bit as well, just running more stuff for her. And just because, I mean, she's a rookie. She's not about to go she doesn't seem like she's going to just go demand the ball. I think she might call for the ball here and there, but not just go demand it and say, yo, my time. Like, that's not what it seems like, it's going to be. And it doesn't, I don't really know how rookies in the W are relative to like in the NBA, because these days there are teams in the NBA that'll just give their rookies the keys to everything. Kind of like, I will say, Indiana Fever feel like that watching them play.
Yeah, I agree. That's a whole other thing, but I know who you're talking about. Caitlin Clark.
They give her the ball and let her go. Like, you know what I mean? High pick and roll. Everything's around Caitlin.
I feel like there's a reason why. Well, the Fever aren't a good team, but I definitely think that's not the way to go. I think making her the center of everything, distribute, score, dominate, do all that, it's too much. And her numbers look decent, but when you watch the game, you don't see it. You almost never think, oh, the Fever are killing. You're always like, oh, they're up 2. Even when they're up, you're like, they're up 2. Well, if the other team decides to get aggressive, this game's over. And when they're down, you're like, unless Caitlin hits 5 more threes, they're not winning this game. And I think that's because they're not utilizing Aaliyah Boston enough, and they're still not. I think I just don't like the offense. I feel like it's like a James Harden like offense. And again, I don't think that offense wins, right? Like that heliocentric, I'm gonna do everything. You have to be so good for that to really work. It just doesn't. I don't think it's winning basketball. I'm guessing things in Indiana will probably change at some point where they'll have different people around running a different system, is what I'll say, because it's not working. And again, the Fever have been a rough team, for years now. That's the thing that's so funny, watching so many people be like, oh, she needs more help. I'm like, yeah, like she went to an awful team. That's why they got the #1 pick. They were bad. they were anyone who thought they weren't going to be bad this year didn't watch last year. That's just a fact. You didn't watch last year. If you watched last year's team and you watched Caitlin and you thought about adding her and what that would equal, it would equal what you see now, which is she'll get buckets, but they're going to get waxed like 85% of the time. So, but I also think the offense hasn't been good. It hasn't been run well. And I agree with you. They might get 2-3 more wins if they were playing a little differently. So yeah, I think that's a good thing to point out. It doesn't happen too much in the W. And when it does, it's probably not a good sign. It means you probably don't believe in anybody else. And as you see with the W, every team's so stacked, you need like 3 or 4 like really good players. So one person is not going to do much against like, the Sun, for example. Like they got too many different, guards, wings, bigs. That's not going to work. So, and as I think you would argue, it doesn't work in the NBA either. It just works for like maybe a little regular season action, but it won't work against the cream of the crop, which means you don't get a title, which means what's the point of doing it then, right?
Well, no De'Arca Hamby's over in Indiana.
That's true, but Aaliyah Boston's really good. She was an all-star starter last year. I think she's being a little like neutralized.
Underused.
Yeah, she's kind of like become like clean up the glass, occasional pick and roll. Like I feel like last year she was more of everything, and they also lost a lot with her like that last year. But I felt like they were heading closer to the kind of direction you want. But you know, they're trying to figure it out too. And I don't know, maybe things will change there, and we'll see a different scenario in the future. I don't know. All right.
Yeah, I was gonna say to conclude on the Aces game thing. By the way, just for anybody that watches this in the future, Jackie Young and Chelsea Gray did not play in this game, so it wasn't like we beat the fully healthy Aces. Just want to point that out, but still a great win for us. I was just gonna say with Rickea Jackson, I'm not even saying that we make it the focal point, of course, and I'm not saying that you thought I was saying that, but just there could always be more. Give her the ball because we're trying to develop her long term at the end of the day. So that's all I have to say about that. After coming off a game where she closed out the game, for her to not get that many minutes because she was struggling mainly in the first half. She was 0 for 5 in the first half. Then what? 1 for 3 in the second tonight against the Storm?
I believe that's right. 1 for 8, yeah.
Okay, so she was 1 for 3 in the second half. She just didn't play much in the second half. And I would have liked to see more, but, it is what it is. Hopefully we'll see more going forward. That's all I can ask for. I like that we did give Cam Brink some more post touches today. She missed some of the shots, but they look like the moves are good. She's getting decent looks. And, I think it's just a matter of time before she starts making those consistently.
Yeah. And she makes them sometimes. That's there are games where we're like, okay, there you go. And then there's some where, 7 points, 8 points, 6 points. And you're like, So, it's same thing. Get her the ball on the spots that she feels comfortable, and she's got to just execute on them. And she's got to work on that more as well. That offensive bag. Again, I don't like to always compare it to the men because this is WNBA, not NBA, but she does remind me of a young AD when he got to the Pelicans, where he was still like a little rough offensively, but he was already like that guy defensively. And it's just getting those tools and developing it. And, everything I've seen of Brink tells me she's a player that's focused. She's always at shoot around. She's always going aggressive. When she's not like shooting at shoot around, she's got the iPad. She's talking to trainers. Like she's locked in. So I'm sure that's going to come. It's just going to take some time. All right. So believe it or not, we are officially past the quarter mark. The quarter mark, again, WNBA season is 40 games. So the quarter mark would be at 10. We actually just got a little past it. We're at 12 already because we hit 10 right in the middle of the week, in the middle of our podcast week. So we're already there. So just like we did for the Clippers and Lakers, we did the quarter awards every quarter to kind of document how the team was doing. And that way we could have those MVP talks and sixth player and all that throughout the year and at certain markers. That way it wasn't just like at the end kind of thinking about it. It was cool. I liked it. We kind of were able to debate like, why'd you pick this guy? Why'd I pick that guy? Now we're going to do with the Sparks. I don't know how different it'll be. Maybe we agree on a lot of stuff. Maybe we disagree. So we'll kick it off with the first award, the main award. Again, these are team awards. I'm not saying these are the MVPs or anything of the W, just of the Sparks by themselves. So for MVP, Dime, who do you have as the Sparks MVP right now?
No question about it. De'Arica Hamby, double machine. She's had a double in every single game this season, but 2. And in one of those games, she had 9 rebounds. That was the first game against the Aces at Las Vegas. She's just been doing it all for us this season. Rebounding the basketball, main screen setter, doing such a great job finishing on the roll. Been our best rebounder, guarding the interior when Cam's been in foul trouble so much. She's played the 5. I mean, she's played the 5 a lot this season because there's been times where coach hasn't trusted Leah Rue and Cam Brink's been in foul trouble. So then it's De'Arica anchoring the whole thing. She's been able to step out and hit the 3, create shots when we need them. I mean, she's just been spectacular. All-star, no doubt about it. And it's a pleasure. It's just an absolute pleasure to watch somebody that plays that hard every single night and is one of the most consistent basketball players that any of my teams have ever had that I've seen so far. It really, really is impressive.
Wow, that's
so far. Hopefully she continues, but it's just incredible. Every single game, she just clocks in and puts in a shift. And there's no secret why she's won a championship before.
Yeah, no, that's high praise. I think that's the one I'm going to mark that down. That's probably the clip right there. That was great. Yeah, and I agree with everything you said. The double-doubles have been there. The production's been there. She leads the team in minutes played. She leads the team in points. She leads the team in rebounds. She leads the team, I believe, in steals. So she's she's doing everything out there. She's been dominant. It's not just one game. It's not just 2 games. It's not 3 or 4 games that blowed up the box score. It's no. 18, 17, 16, 21, 19. And then the rebounds are 12, 14, 11, 13, 12, 11, 10. It's just monstrous.
Yo, I'm sorry. I had to interrupt. I have to just read the stats out to people because I was just like laughing at how ridiculous they look. And mind you, like she's not a lot of her points, like she's not the best self-creator in the world.
No.
A lot of it's just like she's getting the dirty work points. Like, and then she's still sometimes creating her own shot, like in the low post. And sometimes it looks like she's shooting the most wacky shot and it just finds a way to go in. It's just, yeah. But I will say she has that amazing step through that just kills people. Like just absolutely kills people. 20.4 points per game, 11.5 rebounds. So she's averaging 20 and 11, 4 assists, 3.6, rounds up to 4, 1.7 steals. So 2 steals a game on 55% from the field and 48% from 3.
Wow.
Insane.
Yeah. Those numbers are ridiculous. Yeah. That's why I said she's doing everything except selling Wetzel's pretzels out there. That's about it. That's the only thing she's not doing. But everything else, yeah, she's dominating in all statistical categories that matter pretty much, minus blocks. I think we might get to who that is in the next award. So, Defensive Player of the Year. Dime, who do you have as Defensive Player of the Year for the Sparks?
I'm giving it to Cam. I think she needs to stay out of foul trouble. But, it was a toss-up between her and Dearica Hamby for me. But I'm going to go with Cam because we're just so much better defensively when she's on the floor. Like it's just so glaring. Her rim protection, her ability to go up vertically is impressive. The way she takes up space. She just has that great defensive instinct. She plays defense with pride, does a great job forcing jump balls. And she can move her feet pretty well as well. So I just think the next step is to play defense without fouling for her. But I think she's just a defensive standout for me. But I'm interested to hear if you have a disagreement there.
No, yeah, for me it's definitely Cameron Brink. I think she's just so good. She's elite at rim protection. She's fast and agile enough that she can't really get exposed on like any kind of switches or anything like that. No one's really targeting her. The only thing I really see them do is try to get her away from the basket. But they don't want anything to do with her. And they want to get her away from the basket where she can be more effective and try to funnel things away from her so they can try to attack the basket from another spot. But she's really good at coming over a weak side help, getting so many blocks. She's literally already won games because of her blocks. That second game, I believe, in Long Beach, she had that double block. She's just been incredible. Literally just her blocking alone. And she's already doing the thing that, again, hate to compare to Davis, but like that, I call it like that boogeyman effect, where there's times I've seen players, they have a shot, but they see her there and they're like, they just go around or they kick it back out. And I'm like, oh, players are already kind of getting scared about getting swatted. And like I've seen players on like fast breaks, they like turn around now and they're like, is she near? Is she going to chase down me right now? What's going on? So I'm like, sometimes just the fact that she's on the floor is scaring players from like attacking the basket or finishing. They want to know where she's at and know they're safe because they're like, I'm not trying to get my stuff swatted, And I think at the game you won, she had a really nasty one on your side. I remember she just like took it out of the way, hit a cameraman or something. It was crazy. And I'm like, yeah, Brink's that good already. And she's a rookie. Like, it's ridiculous. Like Miller teams pride themselves on defense. And she's the best defender, and she's only has a dozen games as a professional already. So it's scary to think when she starts controlling that ability to foul, when she starts, working on the defense and knowing more about where she needs to be, like how much better she's going to be and how much she's going to, I'd love to see in the future how points in the paint look, and if the Sparks starts to always win that because if she's there, she's neutralizing the points in the paint, and boom. How that's going to kind of allow the team to be even better as she continues forward. But no, for me, for sure, it's defensive player of the year is definitely Cameron Brink. All right, this one's an interesting one. Who's the 6th player of the year for the Sparks so far? Dime, give me your answer. We might have different ones here.
So this one's kind of tricky because you had Rakia Jackson come off the bench for 5 games. Lexi Brown has come off the bench for 3 games. But to me, the truest 6th man of the year this season for us has been Ari McDonald. And so I'm going to go with Ari McDonald as my 6th player of the year, 6th woman of the year, because, that game against the Indiana Fever, that win we had on the road, think that was a big time win, and she really spearheaded the run in that game, and she had a good contribution in the Aces game, in the Wings game. So in the wins that we've gotten, it's been a lot of Aerie, and she reminds me. So see, now you've made your. I don't do the male comparisons that much either at all, but she really reminds me of like a Cameron Payne, lefty point guard, comes off the bench, hit a couple of threes, can get into the lane and make some plays. And it was just funny I think it was after the Aces game, Rakia was just said she's just so little and so fast. That made me laugh. So I'm gonna go with Aerie McDonald as our 6th player of the year so far.
Yeah, I went with the same thing early in the season. We had the same problems when we did it for Lakers and Clippers sometimes because we're like, well, remember we were like Austin Reeves was my player off the bench because Ham benched him. So I was like, yeah, he's been on the bench, so I guess I don't think he should be, but he is now. So yeah, he's the best player on the bench because he probably should be starting. Now I don't think Aerie should be starting, so I think she's also in the role that I think she'll stay in. And like you said, it would have been Rakia, but she started more than she's benched, and that's been a recent thing. So I'm like, I don't have any reason to think she's going to be benched tomorrow. And I think if Lexi stays on the bench, she could get this role. Honestly, I think Lexi will eventually be back in the starting lineup, but we'll see how that goes. I think my guess is she's going to improve, be more consistent from 3, and she'll make the flip. If she doesn't, then yeah, she might stay there. So it might be Lexi later, but right now, I definitely think it's McDonald. Like you said, she's had a handful of games, including the Fever game. I think she really took the charge of that one as well. When she plays well, it's like the backbreaker. It's like if you're getting that kind of production from that guard as your backup, oh, now we're rolling. Now that we might even blow you out because everyone else is doing their job and she's lifting it up like that. That's it. So to me, that's what makes her so important. She's that X factor. If you're going to tell me she's going to score 15 points, we probably win that game. And she's done it a couple times, and those are the games we've won. So yeah, for me, that's definitely the one. I'm really happy for her. She, I believe, played in Atlanta last year, and she kind of had a mixed bag there. Sometimes she showed flashes and didn't. I think she can have a really good, consistent backup spot here, and really shine in it. She's shown those signs of it already. So I hope it keeps going.
Well,
all right. So final, good.
I was gonna say, I think also what makes her the easy choice is that she's a candidate to close games a lot because she just offers very different things than Laisha Clarendon does, in the sense that Laisha Clarendon is more of like a bulky, strong defensive guard. But Aerie McDonald is much quicker off the bounce, more of a problem to defend and pick and rolls for the other team, like because she's a better outside shooter and teams can go over the screen, choose to go over the screen with her sometimes. Whereas with Laisha, they go under the screen, dare to shoot. Aerie sometimes can get in the paint and make those floaters and just is a lot quicker off the bounce. So for a team that struggles to score, that's why I think at times you see Aerie close games. So yeah, we both agree on that. Pretty clear choice for me. But I like the Ray Burrell potential to be a bigger component off the bench for us.
Yeah, no, I hope we see more Ray Burrell minutes. I'm good with that. And yeah, Pete Zayas, aka Laker Film Room on Twitter. He now works with the Lakers, so he doesn't tweet too much anymore. But he has this podcast, the Laker Film Room podcast. In my opinion, best podcast on the Lakers. From just like the general information perspective. And he called like a player like Laisha, that kind of player. He would call that for the Lakers like the responsible adult. Like they're not going to do anything that gets you mad. They're going to do their job, and they might not like excel and like be magnificent, but they give you a baseline of like, oh yeah, I can live with this. And like you said, that's great. But when you're rallying, when you're back and forth, when you need that juice, McDonald can do that. Will she maybe get a turnover or take a bad shot? Yeah, maybe. And would Laisha do that? Probably not. But when she gets on a heater, Laisha can't do that. So you might need it. It depends. If you're up by like 7, maybe you stay with Laisha. If you're down 2, you might go with McDonald and say, hey, can you get us out of here? That might be the play. So that's a good place for your 6th player to be. Now, most improved will be interesting because I know you don't have as much, WNBA history years prior. So I'm curious who you picked for most improved here.
Oh, I'm gonna go with De'Erica Hamby.
I went with De'Erica too. All right, so since we both went for her, we've already talked about it a lot. Just tell me why you picked her. Why did you pick the MVP as the most improved? Make it make sense.
Because I didn't know much about her before the season, and she's playing at an insane level. So I'm like, is there any way she was this good last season? So especially when we also had Neck on the team, so that makes a big difference.
Yeah, she has more responsibility, but she's also producing more. That's why per 36 is such a flawed number. It's like, yeah, but are you consistent? Can you do that? And for a lot of players, the answer is no, right? It's like, oh, if you give me more time, I'll also miss more shot. The volume's not gonna equate, right? Hamby's actually done that and more with her production. So that's why it's weird. But I'm like, yeah, you're most improved because last year you were like solid starter, decent, and this year you're like all-star, just dominant. And I think I can sum up this conversation with where she's at on peak performers. Now, peak performers is something that they talk about in the WNBA, but not in the NBA. And so let me explain it. We also did it for the Lakers and Clippers, but we might have new people here. So peak performers is really simple. It's just an award for the categories of who leads the league in scoring, rebounds, and assists. So for peak performers for Lakers and Clippers, we just said, hey, these are the leaders. No opinion, just the leaders. And for the Sparks, we do the same thing. Dime, I don't know if you've looked it up, but it's very interesting with the Sparks. So I'm going to go ahead and give you the stats here. The peak performer for the Sparks in scoring is Dearica Hamby with 20.4 points per game. Actually, this was before tonight's game, so I might have slightly adjusted. The peak performer in rebounding, also Dearica Hamby at 11.6 rebounds per game. And the final category, for assists, the peak performer for the Sparks is Dearica Hamby at 3.4. So she's the peak in all. There, no one is winning any other category. When we did this with the Lakers and with the Clippers, sometimes someone had one or two, but no one ever did a clean sweep. It would be like LeBron's got points and AD's got rebounds and D'Lo has assists and like Kawhi has points and like someone else would have rebounds and like a guard would have assists. I've never seen one player be like, no, it's me. I score the most. I rebound the most. I distribute the most. Like nobody else does any of these singular things better than I do. And that's why she's MVP. That's why she's most improved. That's why, it's low-key the Dearica Hamby podcast tonight. She's been great. Yeah.
She deserves it though. You know what I mean? It's been a lot of Cam and Rakia talk as it's going to be for the next couple of years, hopefully. So yeah.
Okay. So before we go on with the games this week, I thought it would be good for us to now do the Clippers and Lakers segment. Again, this is encompassing all three. Right now, they're in Cancun. They're probably been there for months now, so that bill's got to be crazy. I hope they did the month resort to get a discount or something because they've been there for a while. But the Clippers might be in Cancun, but there's people here in Los Angeles doing work for the Clippers. Dime, take us to the Intuit Dome.
Man, I was at the Intuit Dome on Sunday, and it's quite insane to see how far it's come along. If you're watching on YouTube or on Twitter, whatever, by the way, again, inviting people to come to the YouTube, drop some comments. But behind me, that's a real picture of the Intuit Dome. I mean, those panels with the red netting is all up. It's crazy to see. They took us through the concession stands, and the width of the hallways, the concessions, the concourse was not, I think it was around the same as Staples Center, but they didn't have those pillars. You know what I mean? In Staples Center, those pillars out of nowhere. So it wasn't that. And then they took us onto the court area or like in the crowd area, the wall, the wall where is the 56 uninterrupted rows or whatever. And man, when you turn around and look up, it is very steep, one row after the other, all the way to the top, on top of each other, which is not something that you see at Staples Center that is built more outwards. And plus, this 300 section at Staples Center, that second level of seats, it's separated by 3 suite levels at Staples Center. Intuit Dome, just 1 suite level. So that upper level is not that far from that lower bowl. So, and then we went to like the 10th row. They said the 20th row at Intuit Dome is 45 feet closer to the court than Staples Center. So like you're really on top. It really feels like you have a closer look at the players. So it's going to be an amazing place to watch a game. I can't wait for that part. Obviously, I'm not super enthusiastic about the current team and the direction of the team. But, man, the stadium's going to be amazing. They're talking about the gourmet foods and stuff. It's going to be crazy, Edwin. It's going to be – I mean, the fact of the matter is it's going to be such a great place to watch a basketball game because it's built for basketball. Whereas, as much as Laker fans don't like to admit it, Staples Center was built for the Kings. It's a hockey arena. And I love it, but it's a hockey arena.
Yeah, so I'm happy for you. Like you get your stadium. That's dope, of course. Now we're not neighbors, which is fine with me. I think most Laker fans are enjoying that now. But I'm definitely looking forward to checking it out. I'm not sure when I'm going to make the trip. Am I going to get to a concert before the season starts? Am I going to wait for the first Lakers Clippers game? Am I going to find a day that I'm off and be like, you know what? Let's go see it. But I think for any NBA fan, especially once we start getting the reviews in from people who've actually gone, it's going to be like, okay, it looks like it's kind of good. Here it is, and like, oh, it's a must. If you're an NBA fan, you got to go check it out. It's a new stadium. It's state of the art, the screen, everything. I saw, I've seen clips here and there. I've seen, the construction hats and people showing stuff, but I think what you've shown is like obviously the most recent, but also looks more far along. I heard from other people, they were a little concerned, like, are they going to hit the deadline? Like maybe like 3 months ago. How's it looking now? Do you feel like they're on track for the events that they have coming up late in the summer and obviously the NBA season?
They should be, yeah. It's coming along, and I think in a couple months' time they should be good to go.
Okay, fantastic. So yeah, we'll keep it going there. I wish my news was a little bit better to share on the Lakers side. For the Lakers, again, they're also in the dead of the offseason, but even in a dead offseason, the body bounces a couple times. And unfortunately, we heard it last time we talked, we were like, oh, it's probably JJ, but we don't know. Let's see what happens. And then it was so quick. Woj, 4 a.m. West Coast time, did not care about the West Coast people. And he definitely didn't care about people who maybe work for a website where they have to write that kind of stuff when he tweeted that out. A little behind the scenes. I'm very glad. I'm just like you. I'm a late night guy. I went to bed that night like around 3:30. And I'm so glad I did. If I stayed up a little bit, I might have had to pull the all-nighter and just report it. Instead, I woke up and just had to go, to the wall until it was over. And there was so much news that was coming out, right? Woj drops his bomb. Actually, they're aggressively pursuing Dan Hurley. He was always their number one target. That's all they want. He's flying in tomorrow. He flies in. They're going to offer him this much money. Some people are saying they're going to offer him $100 million. He's flying back. He's listening to Billy Joel. He's thumbs up signing. And then as quick as the news gets announced, grand opening, grand closing. Actually, he's going to stay at UConn. They're probably going to give him a bigger bag. You're back to maybe JJ. You're back to maybe Borrego. What was all this? So I'm going to ask you, and then you can ask me if you want. What do you make of all this? All we heard was it was JJ. People had their conspiracy theories. Oh, it's JJ. They're just trying to make it look like it's not JJ. And then all of a sudden, the Dan thing looks really legitimate, and then it doesn't happen. What's your take on this coaching carousel where no one can get a job? Darvin Ham was fired, declined the Suns job, accepted the Bucks job, and the Lakers still don't have a head coach. What is going on then? What do you think?
Well, when I first heard the Dan Hurley stuff, I was like, man, that would be a crazy hire just for the fact that he's got pedigree. I know it's at the collegiate level, but I mean, that resume demands respect. You know what I mean? And his passion is off the charts, as opposed to JJ, who's literally not coached at a much higher level than I have, literally. As crazy as that sounds, obviously, he's been under Coach K.
You have more wins than JJ Redick.
Wins total? Maybe. I mean, maybe.
Maybe you know what? I'll make a call. Well, maybe we can give you an interview. Why not? Can you imagine?
Yeah. Anyway, no way. No, I don't have the even close to the connections there.
I got you.
I know you're joking, but anyway, as far as JJ, I mean, yeah, it looks like it. I mean, do you think it's gonna be JJ? It's gonna go back to being that, or do you think they're still gonna interview these guys? Yeah, they're talking about Borrego. You mentioned.
I think the Borrego. So again, I want to say this in case it gets clipped. My opinion. I'm not reporting anything. I'm not revealing anything. I got no sources. Even if I have sources, I'm going to say I got no sources. So I got no sources. I'm not the breaking news guy. I've never done that stuff. Whether I did or didn't know, I keep that stuff to myself, or talk behind the scenes about what's going on. But my opinion, if I had to bet, you know what? I'm thinking it might be. Here's the one thing I would love to know. I'd love to know what AD thinks, because so many people are talking to him. Oh, it's LeBron. It's LeBron. From everything I'm hearing, so not fact, but hearing, AD is playing a much more significant role in who the coach is going to be than LeBron is. LeBron's consistently, and his agent Rich Paul has literally said he's not involved. Do what's best for your organization. I'm not going to be around that long either way, because if most he got 1, 2, 3 years, he's almost out the door anyway. So if we believe that, and I get why people would be like, oh, that's just what he's saying, so that way he could do what he wants and not be blamed for it. But I do believe that's kind of true here. And I believe that AD's playing a more of a significant role. And I'm curious. I don't know. I'm curious if AD likes Borrego more than Redick. They might actually go with Borrego, I think, because of that. Because, he's doing the interviews, he's talking. And if AD feels more comfortable with Borrego, I think they might go Borrego. I think it's close between the two. Right now, unless something else develops, I think those are the two front runners. And I would say it's not a foregone conclusion at this point that it was Redick. From the sense that I get is they want to get this done earlier, and Redick's so focused on the finals and all that, it's tough. The timing's just not there for him to like dedicate the time to doing these interviews and doing that and all that. I think that's kind of been an issue. I think that's kind of what made the Hurd thing even happen, where they're like, hey, like it's kind of dragging out. Maybe we can get this guy. It's like, okay, no, cool. So we're back here where we were before. But I'll be very curious to see what happens with Borrego. I think here's what I will say. I think Borrego has way more of a shot than other people think right now. I think it's a lot more 60-40 one way, and I'm just not sure. If I knew what AD felt, I would go with whatever AD wants. I think that's where they're going to go. But I'm just not sure how AD feels between Borrego and Redick. What do you think now? Because I think you were kind of on the same camp of like, oh, it's definitely Redick. And obviously the Borrego thing made it a curveball, and now we're here. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. Who do you prefer of those two?
It's a tough question. Part of me thinks if you go with Borrego, you're going with the new Darvin Ham, which is like not the kind of guy you wanted, but it's the guy you got. Because it seems like you wanted Redick, you wanted Hurley. If you go with Borrego, it feels like, I don't know. Weirdly enough, I think if we're going to fail, let's fail miserably. You know what? Give the podcaster a chance. Mind the game. Let's see. If it burns, it burns. But it's interesting. I think Redick definitely has an X factor of what if he takes that maniacal competitiveness and really kills it here? What if he's Steve Nash? He might be Steve Nash. I don't know. But I think at this point, I feel like Borrego's the safer one. It's a less offensive hire, right? Longtime assistant. He's also had head coaching experience. Why not? But I feel like you need someone who demands respect and someone who can kind of be a wild card in that bench, especially with those veterans. And I think Redick might be that. Now, it comes down to AD. If AD doesn't want that, he's like, I don't really feel the Redick thing. Then I think you should go with Borrego. But me personally, I think I'm leaning a little more towards Redick, but I'm not crazy about it.
I feel that. I mean, yeah, Hurley would have been great. Do you think? I mean, I don't know. Do you think they lowballed him?
Yes, I think if you and people were like, why? He would have been. I think 100 million
would have been the fifth highest paid coach. They said.
I think 100 million. You give him 100 million. Give him an offer he can't refuse. He's still giving up. And people were like, why? I'm like, look, even if you go with the Lakers, you're still giving up your life. You're uprooting it from one coast to the other, your whole family. And even if the money's guaranteed, how bad does that? You know how bad it can go in LA. What if he's really awful? What if he really isn't an NBA coach and they're like 8 for 20 and he gets fired and, he's embarrassed and he does such a poor job like Rick Pitino where he's out of work for a few years because everyone just remembers how bad he was in the NBA and they forget about his titles. Next thing you know, eventually you're going to bounce back, but it could take you years of that. And you know how stressful that Lakers job is. All that like rah-rah stuff that you're talking about that you like, let the Lakers be down and he does that, national news, you're a clown, you're losing control of the locker room. LeBron walks by you when you're screaming your head off and we lose by 13 to the Hawks. And guess what? That those bright lights, some people can't handle it. I think Curry would be fine, but he has to know with himself, if it goes bad, do you really want to deal with that and get kicked out compared to UConn? You're the god. You're the king. Back-to-back champs. Going for 3. Oh, and you left. You didn't leave us for the Lakers. We love you even more. I'm sure his love at UConn's probably at an all-time high right now, right? So it's the same reason I think Krzyzewski didn't come, right? It's like he ended up staying at Duke and he's a legend. He ended there. You think he would have stayed with the Lakers for 12 more years? No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't have lasted in that job for 12 years. Maybe 5. Maybe he would have. But like, it's a gamble, right? You stay at a good program like Syracuse, Kansas, UConn, even something prestigious like, USC, UCLA, you can build something there. And I think to give that up, you have to not only give them that job, but give them the money that makes them say, you know what, 36 million compared to 100 million, there's no way UConn even gets close to that money. I got to do it. And also, if I knock it out the park, I'm like a superstar. I'm a celebrity, right? But I think at that number too, I think that was a factor. I think if you give him 100 million, you probably get him. I think, but they offered him 70 something, and it wasn't enough.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. I mean, it'll be interesting to keep tabs on how that situation goes. But yeah, I know a lot of Laker fans are disappointed because that would have been big time.
Yeah, it would have looked good on paper. Like you win the media war. No one was mad about the Hurley signing. Now, would it have worked? I don't know, but you would have at least won that day. Compared to Redick, he's got that negativity of he's just LeBron. Even if it's not true, it's just another LeBron thing. Whatever, Borrego, not a sexy pick. They're like, I don't know this guy. Hurley has a success in college that's so good that I didn't really hear anyone complaining about it, even if later they very well may. But we'll see how things go. Obviously, we have the Intuit Dome stuff. We'll keep that on tab. And with the Lakers, once they do announce a head coach, we'll definitely talk about it here. And I'll likely be at the press conference and all that. So we'll be here covering it as it happens. But for right now, we're waiting. It can't be too much longer, though, Dime. They have an NBA draft. They have free agency. You cannot go into a draft and you cannot go into free agency. And when players are like, who's here? You're like, we have no coach. Like, you cannot do that. It will have to be you if it has to be, because we can't go in there with nobody and representing the team. So they got to get it together. So hopefully they can, I'm guessing in the next week or two that has to be done. It can't wait much longer. So, all right, we'll see what they do for that. In terms of basketball, Friday, we have the Sparks playing the Minnesota Lynx. They'll be at Minnesota, 4:30. It'll be on the Ion Network. Dime, it's a rematch. Sparks Lynx, who do you got?
Loss.
Dang. Let me think about it. I'm going to go with you. Yeah, that's a defeat. I think, again, the Lynx are too good. We just seen them. Hopefully they've learned from that, and it's hard to beat the same team every single time, but I'm going to go with the Lynx. But it's a couple days off. It's a road trip. Hopefully they can pull something out, but that's going to be rough. And then the next game will be Sunday. Again, they're on the road, so they'll be actually on the road the rest of the month. So I tweeted it out. I'm already missing crypto. I won't be there all month because it's all road games. So road games the rest of the month out. The next one is on Sunday, which is against the Atlanta Dream, who just lost to the Mystics. So an embarrassing loss, but they'll play the Sparks on Sunday. That'll be at 12 o'clock on ESPN3. Who do you have winning there between the Sparks and the Dream?
Sparks, baby.
Yeah, me too. And I think we'll do Tuesday just because I'm not sure if we'll record on Tuesday kind of like we did tonight or if we'll wait till Monday. Obviously, we'll talk about that offline. But so just in case we do, let's talk about it now. Sparks versus the Sun, Connecticut Sun at Connecticut. That's going to be 4 o'clock West Coast time on NBA TV, so nationally televised. Who do you got there, Dime?
We're not beating them, I don't think.
You know what? I'm going to go crazy. We beat them.
Okay.
It's a former team. We're going to take care of business. They're going to have an unorthodox game. Sparks are going to steal that. They're going to go 2-1 this week. Let's go. So let's see how that goes. All right, cool. That's the end of this week's episode. Oh, actually, before we wrap up, I do want to talk about clips, but let's save that for next week. And then we can cover the first 4 episodes because the 2 premiere, they had one that just came out midnight today or 9 o'clock Monday. So we'll watch the 4 that are there. We'll talk about it and kind of save our clips takes. But we'll also be doing after that. We'll get on schedule and we'll be doing them weekly. We'll cover the first 4 episodes next week when we won't have as many games to cover. So, all right, awesome. That's the end of episode 32 of Basketball in Figueroa. Once again, I'm Edwin Garcia, your host. That was/is Darian Viziri, aka Dime Dropper, and we out.